Do you feel like you could be faster producing tracks in Ableton? If so, keep watching.
This is a quick Ableton tip.
Hello, my name is Jordan and welcome to another installment of Quick Ableton Tips. Today what we're going to be talking about is what I like to call my big three workflow tips for Ableton, for producers in Ableton. And I call it my big three because these are the three things that I do every single session that, having since implemented them, has just sped up my workflow like crazy. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. So buckle up, let's get into it. We'll flip over to Ableton. All right, guys, we're in Ableton here. I've got a little track going. It sounds like this. So it's just something I threw together for the purposes of this video. Now, the first of my big three Ableton workflow tips is session organization, how you arrange your tracks inside a session. This will have a massive effect on how quickly you can move through a track, how quickly you can get things done, but most importantly, what happens at the end of a song. If we look over here on the right, I've got my tracks arranged in this fashion. I've got all of my drums in one color and they're being bussed to a overall group called drums. And each one of my different kind of categories of tracks are all being arranged in this way. So I've got my effects grouped in the same way. I've got my bass grouped in the same way, guitar, keys, and you can arrange this for whatever kind of music that you produce. Now I've got containing groups for all of those groups called all music up here. So keys, guitar, bass, effects, and drums are all grouped inside this all music group. And if we go down here at the bottom, my all Vox group is my lead Vox and my background Vox group. Now there's a specific reason I do this. What this prepares you for is what happens at the end of the session. What is the last thing that you have to do every single time you finish a track? You got to stem it out. And so what these groups do is they basically take all of the guesswork out of stemming your song. So check this out. In Ableton, there are different ways that we can stem things out. But basically, if we were to leave everything as is, in other words, we don't mute anything, we don't solo anything, and we were to take our track, say this is the full length of the track, and we hit our export window. If we were to export our main, that would be our main mix. Okay. Now, for delivery, usually there's between 3 and 5 different mixes that you might have to deliver. You might need an instrumental. You might need a cappella mix. You might need a TV mix. All of these different mixes can be achieved just by muting and unmuting different parts of these groups. So for instance, if I wanted an instrumental, all I would have to do is go down to my all Vox bus and mute it. Done. The only thing that's going to be going to the main output is all of my music. In other words, everything that's in this all music bus. Conversely, I could open that all Vox bus back up and come up to my all music, mute that. Now I've got an a cappella mix. I could open these both back up, go down to my Vox bus and mute my lead vocal bus inside of the all Vox bus. And now I've got a TV mix. Now for stems, you might want a drum stem, a bass stem. Again, it makes this very, very simple. What you could do is click your drums bus, select all. Now what's happened is at that particular layer in the grouping, it has selected all of the groups inside of my music bus. Now I would have to go down and do the same thing for my lead Vox and my background Vox because they're shelled inside of another group. Now, if I go to my export window and I were to highlight selected tracks only, and hit export, that would essentially export my group stems, right? So I would have a group stem for my lead Vox. I would have a group stem for my background Vox. I would have a group stem for all of my different music buses, my music groups, and I could print all of those in one shot. Similarly, if I go to my tracks inside and I go through and highlight each one of these in every group, and I were to go to my export window and again, print or export all selected tracks, now I've got my multi-track session completely stemmed out, ready to go. So this workflow tip is really valuable and it really cuts a lot of time out at the end of your project, at the end of having to deliver something. Like oftentimes when I've had to deliver things to labels and the session is just completely disorganized and the last thing you want to do is sit down for an entire day and stem out an entire track, this workflow makes it very, very easy to stem out. And it's literally just muting and unmuting a bunch of stuff and choosing different options in your export window. So that's tip number one, organize your sessions so that you can stem out really, really easily at the end. My second workflow tip is save packs. Packs are a really, really powerful thing and nobody uses them. What I mean by packs are this. If we go to our file management section, we have choices to either manage our set, manage our project, or manage our user library. Now, managing your set and managing your project can be two extremely valuable things. Say we wanted to manage this particular set. What it's going to do is it's going to look at all of the files that are being used currently by this single set, and it is going to save that as a pack with all of those files collected into that pack in a certain location that you choose. Similarly, if we go back and we say manage project, it's then going to analyze and do the same thing, but for the entire project. And again, we have the option to collect all of the files being used in this project, save them inside of the pack, and save that pack somewhere of our choosing. Why is this a good workflow tip, you may be asking? Well, what packs are compressed versions of either sets or projects. And so you've probably had this happen before where maybe you're going to collaborate with a buddy and you drag your Ableton project onto a USB key and you go to their studio and you plug your USB key in. And as soon as you open it up, you're missing files and things aren't the way they're supposed to be because you didn't do the one thing that we all have to do before we save a session that we're going to collaborate on with someone else. Collect all and save. The packs take all of that guesswork out of it for you. All you have to do is go in, choose which files you want to save, you collect all and save, you save the pack, and you're done. Not only that, but a pack is a compressed version of your Ableton session, of your project, or your set. So you don't have to worry about compressing a file to send across the internet to somebody else. It is already a compressed version of it. So you can literally make a pack. You can use a third-party data service to send that to a friend or a collaborator, and you don't have to compress it after the fact. You don't have to do anything. All you're doing is taking that pack and sending it off. It's a brilliant workflow thing that I never see people using. So that's Ableton workflow tip number 2 of my big 3 is use packs. My third Ableton workflow tip for the day, folks, is save as. Save your sessions as different iterations based on what you are currently working on with regards to your session. So for instance, if you look up here at the top, I've got quick start template session working. What does that mean? Well, I'm currently working on another video that's going to discuss this template session in detail, which will be coming soon. The track that I am working on inside of this template is currently a working version. So I'm still trying things out. I'm still trying certain sounds here and there. I recently just added this little guitar chink. So things are still being changed. Things are being added. Things are being taken away. As such, this is a working version. However, if we go over here to the left and we look at the current project and we look at what projects I've got inside of that, I've got my quick start template session working. So what you see in front of you right now, I've also got a quick start template session mixing. And so if we were to open that, what you'll see is all of the superfluous tracks have been taken away. In other words, all of the empty audio tracks, all of the tracks that weren't being used have been deleted from the session. So I've only got the things I need to mix in front of me. If I need to add something, I can always go back to my working session, work inside of there. But the idea being is that this session is specifically designed for mixing. So I don't have to worry about the creative aspects of anything anymore. I am now purely in mixing mode. I can just think about how things sound, how they translate through speakers, how they translate on headphones. And that ends up being just my main focus is the mixing aspect. So my third workflow tip of my big 3 is save your sessions as different iterations pertaining to what it is you are doing inside of that session. And the cool idea about this is that all of these are expandable. You can go inside of each one of these things inside of your current project, and you can go into these folders. You can take devices out. You can take tracks out. It's a really awesome workflow hack to be able to get back into old sessions, derive new sessions from sessions that you're currently working on, and have them all delineated as such. Those are my big 3 Ableton workflow tips. Number 1, organize your sessions based on what you are going to have to stem out. Number 2, make use of packs. Packs are super, super powerful, and they're already compressed, and they're already going to contain all the files that you need to collaborate with someone else. And number 3, save iterations of your works. The save as button is your best friend. Make sure that you're using it to delineate between different versions of certain sessions and certain songs you might be working on. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and clicking the notification bell so you can be notified when more videos like this come out. My name is Jordan. We'll see you soon.